Welcome to Heidi Relationships. Today, we'll read some more stories from Reddit. But before we start, I would really appreciate if you could subscribe to the channel, like the video if you enjoyed it, and maybe leave a comment down below. That would help the channel a lot. Thank you very much in advance.
If you have not seen part 1 and 2, please check the links in the description. As for abbreviations, EA means emotional affair, PA means physical affair, and OM means other man aka affair partner. The first one is titled, "Things are improving after my wife cheated on me while I was working my butt off. I heard from her yesterday, she wanted to talk. I told her there was nothing to talk about and that she wasn't getting a second chance. When I told her I was filing, she expressed her regrets but accepted it. I'm not going to get upset that she isn't fighting for our marriage. Maybe she has come to the same conclusion I have. Our relationship was a lot hollower than it looked from the outside. Whether that was cause or effect in regard to the affair almost doesn't matter now. Ohm tried to call and text just the morning of the confrontation. Haven't heard from him again. I did find his address and home phone number. Now debating what to do with that info. I don't have his GF's email or direct phone number, which would make contacting her easier. I don't want to risk leaving a message and him finding it. I have a very small, but real, worry that me telling his GF might send him over the cliff, which could result in violence toward me. Although I'm having small near breakdown moments here at the office, I just signed the divorce petition and sent it back to my attorney. Having the distraction and being out of the mostly empty house is helping me on balance. I've made plans for nearly every evening this week to be with friends. My direct boss is getting married this weekend, so I'm probably not going to give him all the sordid details. I don't want to taint him. I've let a couple of others know who are close to me. They all say the same thing, I'm so sorry, and what can I do to help? I've basically just asked for a little empathy and understanding if I disappear on short notice to either take care of things or if I'm having a mini meltdown. I'm not eating much, but I have imposed a no fast food rule, as I could easily see myself slipping into a trap of poor eating. My soon-to-be ex-wife did all of the cooking, or ordering out, or picking up prepared food, etc., so this is another adjustment for me. I lived on my own for 10 years before we were together, so I will manage just fine. It's just another part of my new reality. I am being careful to make sure that I'm not cutting corners here. I'll be getting fish, veggies, etc. instead of frozen dinners. She had a real sweet tooth, and this is my opportunity to keep that crap out of the house altogether. I am hoping that cooking will be therapeutic for me. I feel just a tiny bit better today than yesterday. I'm proud of my own resolve, and the blue sky on the other side of the fog seems attainable. Edit 28. Each day is a little better. Had some very civil contact with the soon-to-be ex-wife who wants to come by the old house to collect a few things left over here, for the cats. I can only hope this level of civility and cooperation continues. Mill called my mom yesterday to try to convince me that is possible. My mom, whom my father cheated on for years when I was in elementary school before she finally divorced him, kept cool and just said that she supported my decision. My phone keeps ringing throughout the day and evening, true friends calling just to chat and keep me busy, checking in to see that I'm okay. I've gotten half a dozen offers of come and stay with us. But I feel like not abandoning my neighborhood is important to me now. Even though all the memories in the house I'm staying in haunt me a little, on balance I think standing my ground there is helping me. Why should I have to run and hide at a friend's house? TV on order. Cable and internet being installed Friday. My first small steps towards building my own new life. Edit 29. Alright, I manned up and I am trying to contact my wife affairs partner. Her home phone number listed as disconnected, money problems, I'm guessing. I thought I knew the grocery store that she managed, but I've spent 10 minutes calling different ones, got to a central manager who never heard her name. I've tried Facebook, LinkedIn and just combing through the Google searches. Any other ideas? While I'm not fond of the idea of staking out his house and following her to work, it would be worth taking a day off to do that if necessary. Edit 30. Thanks for the encouragement, folks. The funny thing is, we started to really fix the place up because we were going to sell it. We remodeled the kitchen, all new doorknobs, painted, some landscaping, power washed the decks, etc. The place looks awesome, and I was initially bummed that we weren't going to get to enjoy all the improvements ourselves. If only I knew. I'm resisting the urge to spend a dime on anything beyond the bare necessities. Not sure why, but I feel like a few months of rather austere living might be really good for me. Okay, a new TV and the every channel in the world cable package aren't exactly minimalist in nature, but you know what I mean. I want to see where I land, financially, after the divorce is settled. It's not going to be bad, but it's only going to be half as good as it is today. I have to say that I consider myself incredibly fortunate in this regard. My heart breaks for the folks in some of the threads that I've read where both parties, and even one, are left in financial ruin at the end. This is stressful enough, and that's just with dividing up a pretty big pie. I can't imagine throwing financial survival into the mix as a concern. That must be horrible. I want to focus on ME, and not by getting a car, but by spending more time on my bike or more time on the trails or more time on the beach. I'm blessed to live in a place with incredible resources, and since I've been married, I've stopped taking advantage of those, not blaming W for that. But it is time to get back to the basics and diversify myself a little. Edit 31. GF, my wife's affair's female partner, just messaged me back saying that she knows about the relationship, told her. She gave me her cell and said she's open to talking about it. I'm going to give her a call to see just how much he's told her. Also, he may have disclosed his plans for the future. Moving out on GF so he can live with my soon-to-be ex-wife? I'm sadly curious. Also, I tried one last time to look at the phone records. Password changed, so they at least figured that much out. Edit 32. A few things to respond to. 1. Yes, I already signed the divorce papers. I'm not fighting for someone who spent most of her day, every day, for 6 years, carefully conducting a relationship with another man so that I was completely kept out of it. It wasn't a second relationship, it clearly was her primary relationship. I was, indeed, the just not legally. 2. Neither has reached out again. W and I have exchanged a couple logistical texts. Can I come by the old house to pick up X, etc. At first I did have that. You mean that's it? That's all she's going to fight for me? Thoughts? But you know what? If I'm really honest with myself, I've seen the quality of the relationship with my wife degrade over the last 6 years. Because of the affair or a catalyst for the affair? It almost doesn't matter at this point. Buried inside me somewhere is a small, and growing, sense of relief that I'm getting out of this situation and get a fresh start. That being said, I am, and don't let me off the hook, going to work with my therapist and on my own to examine how I contributed to letting the relationship crumble over time and how I let this go on for so long. Both of these are things I need to address for my own good and for the good of any future so of mine. 3. We are on completely separate cell phone plans, so that's not a concern. She has changed the password on her account, so that's one less thing for me to obsess over. Edit 33. In regard to my wife's affair, I'm cautious of him because he's a big, physical guy with a history of fights in his past. I think it is not only practical but wise advice. Don't ever get into a fight with someone who has nothing to lose. Other than the physical aspect, I'm not afraid of him. I contacted his GF yesterday and I'm going to call her today to make sure she knows the whole truth. I've also called just about all of our common friends to make sure they know the truth about my W and My guess is that he's had a string of people calling him and browbeating him. That being said, another good friend of mine told me to have pretty low expectations if I think that our circle of friends will completely ostracize the two of them. He said, and I believe it, that people are in general quite tolerant and resilient when it comes to things like this, and the two of them will be back in decent standing before too long. Hearing about, or seeing, W and going out as a couple with some of our common friends will be one of those future kick in the nuts that I'll have to prepare myself for. Edit 34. A user commented, Not saying they did it to get the D started. Saying he knows you guys have money. He knows she is his. He put it in your face every time you guys was out. He is using her, and if cause a D, she will walk with money. Get me now? This scum is scum, I know. No matter what, he walks a winner. Now see, this is where you have to be the douche. And let me say, you will not get a criminal record for draining all accounts. Since most of the money was earned by you. Move everything. Bonds, funds, close and reopen in your name only. CDs, same thing. I'm talking everything, but this has to be done quickly. So lay out a list with every ACC, starting with the largest amounts you want protected. I don't think he is some finance guy, so you should be able to end run them on this. As for spending, didn't you earn this money? Then spend it how you want. Call your money manager before she does. But, you may have to find out if the ACCs are locked since you filed. We always advise taking care of these things before filing for that reason. Either way, talk to your mouthpiece about setting up the house, or, if you want to be an ass, kicking her out of the new one so you can move into it. I actually like that. It has been sullied less. And he won't get the pleasure of it. Actually, what is considered the primary residence now? If it's the old place. Put the other on the market now. Op then responded, my attorney is giving me exactly the opposite advice, and since I'm paying her $425 an hour, I'm going to follow her directions. I mean, no disrespect to you, of course. She said that the summons my W will get today has temporary restraining orders on all property and accounts. That means she can't touch anything, and neither can I, until the property is divided. All of our accounts are joint accounts. This means neither she nor I can close them without the other's consent anyway. To make matters slightly more complicated, my W is in finance and manages all of our money. So, there will be some discovery to do there to make sure that we uncover all of the money we both have invested or stored away. Neither of us can sell anything, open lines of credit against assets, etc. My attorney suspects that when W gets the petition, summons today, she'll retain an attorney and they will immediately file a motion for spousal support. That is actually the best thing that could happen, since then we will have to cover all of the expenses on the residence she's living in, the new house, from her own pocket, plus my support. Since that house is bigger, more expensive, higher taxes, higher utilities, more landscaping upkeep, etc. I'd like to see that all coming 100% out of what she's eventually going to get instead of it coming out of the funds to be divided. Edit 35. By the way, my wife managed the money, but I've always had and watched the statements. I would have seen any large withdrawals. And, although I am ashamed and embarrassed to admit it, I was the one that was propping up the OM financially. I paid for a lot of things for him in exchange for him doing work. He is a talented craftsman in some trades I have a need for. But I don't think we've ever come close to squaring up. I'm sure he'd say he's done way more for me, us, really, than what I've paid, but I see it the other way. I also didn't realize he was getting Kitty as compensation, too. Edit 36. Just spoke to the OM GF. She knew about it 6 years ago. But she thought it was just a little fling that ended after 5 months. And she apologized that she never reached out to me, but she thought it was up your W if she wanted to tell you. I didn't want to break anyone up. Boy, you all were so right about reaching out to her. She had no idea that it had continued, and she didn't realize the explosion on the other end, my end, this past weekend. She told me, I'm still trying to process this all, but that she's ending it with OM immediately. Also, I don't think I want both houses sold. I don't care what she gets. I just want what I want. I like the house I'm in and don't want her to try and push me out of this one. If she stays in the new house, it's going to be very expensive for her on her own. Would rather see it bleed her, them dry. To be clear, the houses will be assessed a fair value and then they need to be divided equally. So, if she wants to stay in that one, she'll have to give up an amount of cash equal to buying me out of the equity we have in it, the down payment, essentially. Correspondingly, I'll have to buy her out of this one. While this one is smaller and worth less, we have more equity in it, so I'll owe her more money. I'd rather work it out that way than have to deal with selling the houses, paying realtor fees, etc. Edit 37. There are a lot of smart people on here. Yes, mortgage will be about $3,100 for the first few years before they'll have to lock in at a slightly higher rate. Spousal support, simply a fact of life given California law, will be around $1,300 after taxes. So, if she's bringing in $5,500-ish per month, doubt it will be attractive to Pat that mortgage plus taxes, at least $1,000 per month, plus insurance. Can't contribute squat. Even if he dumps GF, they sell their house, underwater, he's still got a pair of kids in college. This means WW is starting to take down the cash she'll have in the bank starting day one. That's the road to hell. I wouldn't want to be on it, especially with a trailer full of freeloaders hitched to your ass. Good luck. Tonight I had dinner with a couple, old friends, who reminded me again just how blessed I am to be surrounded by such caring, loving people. To measure WW and against these people is a joke. Geez, several of you on this forum are quicker to come to my defense than my wife of almost 10 years. It's sad that it has taken such a tragedy to help me see what is really worth valuing in life. People who love you and you can trust. Dr. APPT went fine. Blood tests and therapist tomorrow. Friend's house in Sonoma for the weekend. I'm the luckiest guy on the planet. Clarifications. 5.5 would be total income including spousal support. 85 is a full-time job. The house that's underwater that I referred to is the house the and his GF have together. The only way I can see for her to remain in that house is if she lives an otherwise very frugal life, house poor, spends a bunch of the settlement cash to pay it down to lower payments, no money left to invest for future, or gets mommy to start paying part of the mortgage. Third option is probably what will happen. Edit 38. I think some others have already mentioned it, but when I put the timing together of when the three of us, me, WW, all started to be friends instead of acquaintances, and then the information I got from GF about when she caught them and how long told her it was going on, it's pretty clear to me that WW and were together from literally the first day and I started being friends. When I've been saying best friend, I really mean closest friend. I have other people in my life that I go way back with who will always be the most special people in my life, but this guy and I spent almost, clearly not all, of our free time together on weekends, working on our hobby stuff. There were times we put in super late night, long days getting ready for events, etc. WW would always bring us food, we paid for of course, to keep us going. I think now about how great this was for her, two men working together, happily, and her sleeping with whichever one happened to be in her bed that night. Anyway, from a timeline perspective, as others have said, he was never really my friend. He buddied up to me for access. What a dick. For what it's worth, we could sell the house we just bought for what we paid for it, minus a few points for realtor fees, etc. So, that would almost be a wash. We put a couple $100K down, so that would be the equity we'd split. The house I'm in would sell for about $250,000 more than we owe on it, so it'll cost me half of that to own this one myself. Edit 39. Just going about the business of getting on with my life. Great weekend with friends. Got rip-roaring drunk, in a good way, on Saturday night in Glen Ellen at a martini bar, restaurant. Went flying Sunday morning with a buddy. Did some cleanup around the house on Sunday afternoon and then a B-day party for another buddy. My new normal is great. I am very anxious to get started with the D proceedings. I spent some more time listing out essentially every single asset we own, down the floor lamp and the coffee table. Since pretty much everything is at the new house that my wife is in, I want to make sure that I somehow get compensating at least a little for all the things that I'm going to have to go out and buy for myself. I'm going to get the locks changed at the house I'm staying in this week. That's a really good idea. I know that has a key to the house. He was such a close friend, that he house sat for us to take care of the plants and cats while we were on vacations. At work for the second week. I need to stop checking in here so much during the day and refocus on kicking ass at work. Edit 40. Howdy, folks. I've got a pretty unremarkable update. But, for the record, I'm doing just fine. The soon-to-be ex-wife and I are corresponding almost daily, all business, agreeing to many things around the D so that our attorneys have very little to discuss. She's been incredibly civil and cooperative. I have to imagine that she just wants out of this, too. I can live with that. The Ohm has slowly started to crawl out of the darkness and has pinged a couple of our common friends who, of course, immediately just told me. He was texting things like, "Life is basically over, so sad," crap like that. Interesting choice of words, sad. Not, "Feel so guilty," or, "What have I done," or, "Really sorry." I think both soon-to-be ex-wife and Ohm both have compartmentalization issues and don't see how what they've done really affects anyone but them. Anyway, not focusing on that. Just going about my business of closing common accounts, getting utilities at the new house out of my name, establishing my own credit, accounts, etc. Lots of little things to do. Oddly, I'm finding each one a small victory and a bright spot instead of a trigger to mourn. I continue to realize with more clarity that our marriage was dead for a long time before this D-Day. Edit 41. Well, haven't posted for a few days because things have been really good. I'm settling into my new routine. I'm still not sleeping well, and while I'm eating good food, I really just don't have much of an appetite. I've lost about 10 pounds in the last 2.5 weeks, but not from a lot of exercise but rather from not eating as much. Maybe I'm eating the right amount now, who knows? Soon-to-be ex-wife, should that be ETBXW as in eventually, doesn't sound like divorce, and soon should be in the same sentence. And I have been communicating more, all civil. I'm actually going to see her face to face for the first time tomorrow night. I'm going to the other house to pick up some remaining clothing and other stuff that she said I should take. We had good conversation about how we're both dealing with it but haven't talked about the it at all. I don't think she's ready for that just yet. She's seeing a therapist, too, now. She hasn't shared much with me about that, but just said that in the first meeting the therapist was just gathering information about our communication problems, and about her family history, relationships, etc. Sigh, I need some sleep. Edit 42. Seeing my soon-to-be ex-wife on Friday was such a non-event that I honestly just forgot to post an update. I took a friend with me, and we just made a couple back-and-forth trips for me to collect some more of my things. Seeing her wasn't a trigger for either anger or sadness. It was almost clinical. I'm feeling stronger every day. Also had to return a key to the Ohm for the space we rented together. I had half a dozen very passive-aggressive messages thought up to send him when I told him where I left the key, but I opted to take the high road and just say, "Here's where the key is." He just replied, "Okay, thanks." In other news, I had the great pleasure of actually meeting up with S&C for some sushi last night. I must say, it was great to actually get to shake hands and thank in person just one of the many on this forum who helped me beyond measure through one of the most difficult things I've had to face. I love you guys and gals. He also gave me hope that great relationships are possible, but that they don't come easy. You've got work for them. A great lesson to learn as I move forward. Edit 43. A couple other questions to answer or address. Yes, she did contribute to the properties. While I make considerably more than her, the money she made went into the pot, and went towards the property taxes and other stuff related to the house, if not the mortgage payment directly. So, if you were headed towards making the case that she doesn't really deserve a piece of the property, that's not the case. And, about them feeling remorse or guilt. If they do or did and I reported on it, I was wrong. I've seen my soon-to-be ex-wife multiple times and the words, "I'm sorry," have never materialized. Now, to be fair, we've had essentially no conversation about what, why, how since the day after I walked out. We've only talked simple logistics about finances and property. I don't know if I'll ever talk to her about the what and the why. I'm at a point where I wish she and the would just vanish. I don't have a burning need for answers. I look at it as having very little to do with me. I think I was marginalized as they built their own relationship. I definitely own that I wasn't really providing a fulfilling relationship in terms of our marriage, but I can only own 50% of that, and only up until the point that she started investing in her other relationship instead of ours. So, it's not like I don't want to learn from this. I just think the best thing for me is to move forward and not look back. This is the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed the relationship stories. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like the video and write a comment. I really appreciate your support and it helps my channel so much. Thank you.